Throughout the 1970s, Italy was paralyzed by a period of extreme political polarization and daily street violence known as the Years of Lead. The vulnerability of the state was absolute. In 1978, left-wing militants kidnapped and assassinated the former Prime Minister, Aldo Moro, proving that no level of government was safe. 2 years later, right-wing terrorists detonated a bomb at the Bologna train station. The blast killed 85 people and wounded hundreds more, marking the deadliest terrorist attack in Italy since the Second World War. In March 1981, police investigating a financial scandal raided the villa of a man named Licio Gelli. Inside, they found a list containing 962 names. Alongside the names, investigators recovered a document titled The Plan of Democratic Rebirth. It was a highly confidential, step-by-step roadmap for an authoritarian takeover of the Italian Republic. The decade of bombings and kidnappings provided the perfect cover. While the public panicked over the violence in the streets, a secret Masonic society known as Propaganda Do, or P2, was quietly executing this exact plan. The 962 names on Gelli's list bypassed the normal democratic hierarchy entirely. The lodge had recruited leading journalists, prominent bankers, and top civil servants. This network map shows the infiltration into the state's defensive apparatus. The directors of all three of Italy's intelligence agencies, SISTE, SISMI, and CSIS, were registered P2 members. Expanding the view, the list included 44 members of parliament, 3 cabinet ministers, and 195 military officers. This was a fully formed parallel administration. If the legitimate Italian state collapsed under the weight of the ongoing terrorism, this shadow government was already in position to take control. The architect of this network was the lodge's worshipful master, Licio Gelli. He had taken a dormant, historically anti-communist Masonic lodge and reorganized it into a clandestine criminal operation. Gelli's Plan of Democratic Rebirth explicitly called for the systematic capture of the media. The strategy was to acquire failing newspapers and establish a unified editorial line across the country. In 1977, P2 orchestrated a takeover of Corriere della Sera, Italy's leading daily newspaper. Gelli provided the funds to bail out the publisher, using capital sourced from P2-linked financial networks. With financial leverage secured, the paper's critical editor was fired. The editorial stance immediately shifted to the right, neutralizing a major source of opposition to the lodge's political allies. Gelli recognized a practical reality of modern subversion. To bypass democratic institutions, you first have to control the information voters use to make their decisions. Buying national newspapers and bribing politicians requires massive capital. P2 sourced this money by draining Banco Ambrosiano, one of Milan's principal banks. The bank's president, a P2 member named Roberto Calvi, was found hanging under London's Blackfriars Bridge in 1982, shortly after a $1.3 billion shortfall in the bank's ledgers was exposed. Calvi was widely known as God's banker because of his close ties to the Vatican Bank, directed by Archbishop Paul Marcinkus. P2 routinely used the Vatican's sovereign status to shield its financial movements from Italian state auditors. This flowchart illustrates the mechanism. Plundered funds moved from Banco Ambrosiano, passed through the Vatican Bank, and landed in a numbered Swiss bank account called Protezione. From there, millions of dollars were paid as kickbacks to political leaders. P2 operated as a massive financial conspiracy, leveraging the unique legal protections of the Catholic Church to fund the subversion of the Italian Republic. Another core objective of Gelli's plan was neutralizing the judiciary. It called for separating the career paths of judges and prosecutors, ultimately bringing public prosecutors under the direct control of the executive branch. Meanwhile, P2 members actively manipulated the legal system from the inside. Following the 1980 Bologna train station bombing, the P2-affiliated heads of the secret services deliberately fed false information to investigators to protect the far-right militants responsible for the attack. Gelli himself was later convicted of misleading the court. He collaborated with intelligence officers to plant a suitcase full of weapons, explosives, and forged documents on a train to Milan in 1981, specifically to derail the ongoing investigation. By controlling key intelligence positions, the Lodge ensured the strategy of tension succeeded. They kept the public terrified of left-wing threats, while shielding the right-wing terrorists actively attacking the state. When the P2 membership list was finally released to the public in May 1981, Prime Minister Arnaldo Furlani was forced to resign, taking his entire cabinet down with him. A parliamentary commission of inquiry, led by lawmaker Tina Anselmi, spent years investigating the network. The commission officially concluded that P2 was a secret criminal organization, aiming to alter the correct functioning of the country's institutions. The Lodge was officially outlawed in 1982, but the ideas outlined in the Plan of Democratic Rebirth survived. Many P2 members remained in power, most notably Silvio Berlusconi, who successfully entered politics and implemented several of Gelli's media consolidation and political goals over his 4 terms as prime minister. The physical lodge was dismantled, but its detailed blueprint continued to shape the Italian political landscape for decades. Contrast that deep-seated secrecy with modern Italy's push for accountability. Today, state institutions actively work to break the culture of silence, like the Anti-Mafia Investigation Directorate dedicating its 2026 calendar to the women who have publicly chosen the side of legality. Exposing organizations like P2 relies entirely on the courage of investigative journalists, magistrates, and civil servants who document the facts and refuse to let the public memory fade. The legacy of P2 serves as a precise warning. The greatest threat to a state doesn't always arrive with a protest or a bomb. Often, it comes in the form of a quiet, well-funded checklist executed by the exact people sworn to protect the country.